All right, everyone. Good morning from Synchronicity Sanctuary here in Central Virginia. Uh, Jim Clark here to share another contemplation with you. I also want to respond to a question that I received from one of our long-term members in relation to the subject of this contemplation. So, the contemplation is first and foremost, I, Source, am. When we understand we are at the center of a circle, and there we sit while yes and no chase each other around the circumference. A quotation from, I'm not sure if I can pronounce this right, Chung-Tzu, a Taoist master, is simply describing the experience of realizing that you are Source, first and foremost. And that's where you are, and that's who you are, and that's what everything is. While the experience of reality in the denser dimensions, where we have the polarities at play, the yeses and the nos, and the rights and the wrongs, and so forth and so on, in this arena of experience, which our ego is immersed in, we have our initial introduction to experience as human, experience in the denser dimensions of our being, of our existence, so as a human being. So that's basically what that statement is saying, is what all statements really say when it comes to the holistic model of reality, is that consciousness is everything, and that includes you. So what you experience as something objective, which you experience as something outside of yourself, is really an illusion of separation. It's an illusion that there is something outside of yourself that you could experience. Because if, from the holistic model of reality perspective, there is nothing else. So how can you experience something objective to yourself if there is nothing else but yourself? So that's kind of the situation that the human experience is in. It's just not fully realized or appreciated until you have gained enough experience in the polarized aspect of illusion, the rights, the wrongs, the yeses and the nos, and where all the judgments and the friction that is generated out of the apparent agreement, disagreement, so forth, where people's belief systems are first and foremost in their experience. You're raised in a certain way, you believe something, you have a religion, you have a political belief, you have whatever, and then you discover as you interact with other human beings that there's all kinds of belief systems that don't agree or that are simply different from yours. And a lot of people are in that part of the human experience, and they have not yet experienced anything beyond it. So to them, that is the ultimate reality. Even though it's an illusion, it's where their feet are, and it's what they're here to do, to gain that experience, until they have taken in enough of that experience that they are through with it. They're ready to move on. And this is when usually a teacher, be it a human being or something else, or just be it your own intuition, shows up and starts to lead you towards the truth of who you are. This is what happens with human beings all the time, but you don't hear about it that much. So, first and foremost, I, Source, am, is the quotation, the truthful statement, and then the understanding that we are Source, that we are at the center of all the action that is going on in our world around us, as we are experiencing ourselves as a focal point of creation. So there's other people, there's other happenings, there's agreements and disagreements, and these are going on simultaneous to the truth of who we are and what life is. It's just a question of whether or not you're ready to open up to that and to surrender your ego, which is immersed in an expression of the illusion of separation, or not. So that's a quotation, and in relation to that quotation, I just wanted to share some questions that were sent to me by a long-term member here that are relevant to the quotation. And it's said that, if memory serves me correctly, we were taught that the external objective world, in the obvious external objective world that we experience moment to moment as a human being, there are interior experiences such as sensations, thoughts, and feelings that can also be viewed as objective. So where does that leave the subjective? Is the subjective simply stillness, or thought absence, or something else? If so, do you focus on that stillness in formal meditation, but in daily active focus on the balance point or midpoint between the objective and subjective? In other words, if what we consider an subjective experience, like our thoughts and our feelings, if that's really a subjective or objective experience as well, what does that really mean? Well, the question implies an analytical perspective, and analytical perspectives are tricky when you're dealing with evolving consciousness, evolving awareness, simply because the mind that we are so accustomed to using to try to understand things is also an expression of illusion. It's also an expression of separation, and it has its limitations in terms of what it can understand. So from my perspective, an answer to that question is that I don't tend to be that analytical, because I don't see that there's much purpose in it when you're experiencing presence, when you develop the experience of a constant presence, which is the awareness of yourself as source consciousness. It's the beginning of that awareness. And when it becomes substantiated so that it's a constant experience, that is the focus that I have no matter what's going on. When I meditate, when I'm active, all the time, 24/7, simply because that presence is the opening up to the truth of who I am experientially. And it doesn't mean anything. It's not something that I try to analyze. It's something that I focus upon, because I find that when I do, every moment is a meditation, and I'm able to maintain a mind that is quieter, a mind that is more focused, and an overall experience of being fulfilled and content, no matter what's going on around me. Because when you finally reach the acceptance of this truth, and you are able to allow your ego to remain in the background as an expression that was part of your human experience, but certainly not the ultimate reality of that experience, then it gradually dissipates in power. And the longer that you maintain that kind of a focus, the longer and stronger the truth of who you are emerges in your experience. So you're really kind of growing the truth out of the illusion of who you are, as an ego with a mind and feelings and belief systems and so forth, to an energetic experience that is beyond words, something that you can't describe, something that you cannot analyze mentally. Some people can. Some people are born with a very sharp mind that can delve into subject matters like this and dissect, but without losing the perspective of what they're speaking about, as opposed to the experiential validation of the truth of who they are. So for those like a Krishnamurti, for example, who has kind of followed that line of growing his awareness and becoming aware and fully realized. But that was his experience, or that was other people's experience. It's not mine. And for me, the ongoing moment-to-moment experience of the presence, an energetic vibrational experience that's always with me. It varies in its amplitude, but it never goes away. And with that vibration comes a knowing. There's information contained in that vibration. It's not the kind of information, from my experience anyway, that I can literalize. I can't sit down and say, well, this is what it's saying now and it's what it's telling me, because it's just more a question of growing the experience of pure being, just existing. As this quotation said, you're sitting at the center of a circle while yes and no chase each other around the circumference. This is a forever attempt to resolve differences that are themselves an illusion. So you can never resolve differences at that level of experience where polarities are dominant, where there's a right and a wrong and a yes and a no and a cold and a hot and so forth. That's just the nature of that kind of reality, because they all coexist simultaneous to each other. It's the creation of consciousness that's generated from its primary intention to fully be itself. So it had to, in order to fully be itself, it had to create a polarized field of experience, because without polarity there is no experience. There's no way to generate a contrast, which is really the foundation of all experience. If you don't have contrast, you learn something because something comes into your awareness that was not there before. You feel something because there is a feeling that is new or that is stronger, that overwhelms you in a moment, and so forth and so on. So without the polarities, you can't have experience. So it's not like they're wrong. It's not that the experience is something other than Source. It's a tool that is here for Source to know itself, to experience itself, and that is why it's happening. But because you are Source, because you are the ground of all being yourself, you are one perspective created to experience the illusion of separation. And there's billions of human beings on the planet right now that are different perspectives of consciousness, experiencing the reality of polarized experience differently. Everyone's unique, so it's beyond comprehension how diverse the experience of consciousness is having in relation to the creation of itself as human. So that's what it is, what we call the creation game. It's all going on as it should. It's being orchestrated by consciousness, of course, because what else is there? The ultimate truth, and keeping that truth simple. There is only one. There's one blissful consciousness, and there is nothing else. If you exist, you're consciousness. So that's how I kind of approach this whole subject, or all subjects related to holistic models of reality and the human experience, and what appears to be something contradictory or something that doesn't make sense because your mind steps in and wants to analyze, or your mind wants to figure something out, which is just our habit that we have created out of our human experience as we were growing up. And we were experiencing what we call education, where we had to learn how to survive in the world by using our minds, right? Which is a very valuable tool. We had to do it, and if you're living, you mastered that to a degree that you're successful. But when it comes to the holistic experience of reality, the mind can't go there. It simply doesn't know. It wasn't created for that purpose. But the intelligence and the knowing that exists beyond the mind is there, and it comes to you energetically. And just as every mind is a diversification of consciousness, I believe there's probably the same amount of diversification in the beginning stages of presence itself, so that whatever our experience is, however we operate in this illusion of separation, that creation, our individualized expression is a valid expression of consciousness as well in this play. So, however it comes to you, take it as it is. Focus on your experience rather than on the analytical attempts to understand your experience, because that in time will come to you as you generate and grow the experience of your own presence. That's kind of like you're birthing yourself in a truthful way after you've had enough of the illusion of being what you are not. So in a nutshell, that's my response to the questions. I hope that they serve you, and I hope that you enjoyed this little chat here. I will be back again maybe next Monday. I have a program coming up here. We're giving a program starting in 2 weeks from now, actually. So I'm not sure if I will be back. I'll be back next week, but the week after I probably will have to skip a week. Anyway, we'll send you an announcement to that effect, okay? So I bid you adieu, and I wish you a blissful day and a blissful life. Until next time, remain focused on the truth that you are the consciousness that is all and everything. Thank you.